Well, it seems they have brought back the Demeter. Remember that ship? It was Pajovian's newest invention, only available between May the 5th and May the 25th last year. The only ship in the game to have 30 cargo capacity, and it was never to be seen again in the shipyard list. Those who managed to complete the task of gathering the vast amount of resources that you needed to build it in a short period of only 20 days were very few. In fact, this chart here, made by Crabway, shows only 190 Demeters that were built during that time, though Nar said that 31 Demeters were missing, so that brings the total to 221 Demeters that exist in the game, and I gladly own one of them. And many people wanted the ship brought back into the game. They thought that a steamship with 30 cargo capacity was rather overpowered, and many regretted the missed opportunity to own one. So, along came the Ceres, Birkeland's answer to the Demeter. But how similar are both ships? Does the Ceres live up to its predecessor? Well, let's find out. Shout out to Sincere Madness for letting me use his Ceres in this video, and without further ado, let's compare them. Right, so here are the stats. Let's begin with the building costs, see which one's more expensive. Well, both are basically the same. The Ceres and Demeter costs the same amount of doubloons, same amount of iron, wood, and it also costs an advanced engine for both ships. But the Demeter was available when blessed engines, steam engines, were a thing. So that meant that you'd have to wait 3 days for loyalty tokens, for free loyalty tokens, to buy a blessed engine. I forget what it's called. A Lord Gaben's Blessing? Yeah, that was it. So that you can then make a blessed steam engine. So the Demeter's more expensive in that case, in that you had to wait literally, well, you had to make 4 of them, so 12 days in order to make the Demeter, which can be costly, seeing as the Demeter had like a time limit of only 20 days. That's obviously dependent on whether you didn't have any at the start of when the Demeter was introduced, but yeah, that's basically the only difference. You could also pay for Lord Gaben's Blessing with 300 Robux at the premium merchants, meaning that you could also buy it from other players as well with just doubloons. I don't know how much it cost back then, doubloon wise, but well, there you go. So in that sense, the Demeter was more expensive. I still have a Lord Gaben's Blessing just sitting there in my storehouse as a, I don't know, nostalgia, piece of history, I don't know. But yeah, so I would say the Ceres is much more, actually cheaper, so it's got that going for it. Hull strength, same. The armament is different, but I'll get back to that. Speed, on paper it's the same, and I'll test that out, and I'll test the turn rate out as well, and I'll get back to that. Cargo is the same, and round shot storage is the same. So, first I'll deal with the speed, then I'll deal with the armament. Okay, you know the drill by now. So this is the Eastern Seas wind route, which is what I use to test the ships, crosswind and downwind. And when I sail from Corsica to Weymouth, that'll be the crosswind test, and Weymouth downwind to Corsica is the downwind test. And I sailed both ships individually, and then I placed the footage of me sailing both ships individually, side by side, so you can see exactly how fast each ship is. And I put a timer at the top, measuring, telling you exactly how fast each ship is. And yeah, that's how I usually do the tests. But for this occasion, because the Ceres wasn't my ship, it lagged a lot. Yeah, well, as you can see, I'll speed up the footage here. So on the right you can see the Demeter, on the left you can see the Ceres, and it's just the Demeter made port on Weymouth a lot quicker than Ceres, and it was very unreliable. Just to show you how unreliable the lag made it, this is the turn rate, and as you can see, the lag was so bad for the Ceres that it took twice as long as the Demeter to make the turn rate. And yeah, it was just so unreliable. So instead, I got Sincere Madness to sail his Ceres, and well, I sailed my Demeter alongside his, just as a comparison that way, so that well, here's that footage with both ships sailing side by side together. And well, just so you know, there was some lag on my part, which is why the Demeter sort of stalled at first, as you can see. Well, yeah, that was lag on my part, but other than that, both ships sailed exactly the same speed, which is, well, what you would expect, because both ships have exactly the same mast sails, you know, the rigging, I mean. Both ships have the same rigging, so yeah, that was enough for me to just conclude that both ships sail the same speed, crosswind and downwind, and have the same turn rate. Right, and here's the results for the speed test. So I filled in the Demeter results for the crosswind and downwind and turn rate tests, which I did, in my own time, and, well, I'm going to assume that the series is exactly the same. So, yeah, I just put same. And as you can see, the Demeter and Ceres are faster downwind rather than crosswind, which is interesting. And that's the time for the turn rate. And yeah, so that's the speed done. And so I'll just move on to the armament now. So the Ceres has 2 medium guns at the front of the ship, 4 swivels, 2 at the front of the engine, and 2 at the back of the engine, and 4 light guns at the back of the ship. So a total broadside for the Ceres would be 2 light guns and 1 medium gun. Whereas the Demeter has 4 medium guns here, 6 swivels, 2 placed at the front here, and 4 placed around the helmet area, as you can see, and 1 massive turret at the back. That means the Demeter can manage a broadside of 2 medium guns and a turret. Now, a good armament in my eyes consists of 3 things, as far as I could tell. The first one of these is, are they hard to snipe? So, on the Ceres, the cannons are all pretty much out in the open, and since there's so few of them, I can imagine a good gunner will be able to just snipe them out and take them all out relatively quickly. So they're really easy to snipe, I would say. The same can be said about the Demeter's 4 medium guns in the middle of the ship. They're relatively out in the open, and a good gunner would be able to snipe them relatively easily. But the turret at the back of the Demeter is going to be rather hard to snipe out. For those of you who don't know, in order to snipe the turret, you're going to have to hit the actual cannon in between the slots here. So I tried to hit it myself with this cannon at the cove, and I failed. In the end, I had to turn around the turret so I can hit it from the back in order to disarm it, and, well, yeah, that's what it looks like when it's disarmed. But that's just the Demeter long gun turret. The placement at the back can hold 2 different types of turrets. This is the Demeter long gun, but the other type of turret is the Poseidon long gun, which, as you can see, offers a lot more protection for the gun, making it even more harder to snipe. So, with this extra protection, I would say that the Demeter's armament is harder to snipe in comparison with the Ceres. Broadside damage. So here's the best range of damage I can come up for of each of these guns, according to some tests I've done. Now, keep in mind that these numbers, you probably won't be able to get these numbers of damage specifically. You would get somewhere in between these numbers. But this is just like a sort of a estimation of range of how much damage you could do with each gun. And yeah, I'm going to carry out more tests in the future to sort of narrow it down a little bit more. But this is what all I have to go on at the moment. So let's say both ships have carronades, because I want to know the most amount of damage each ship does. I'll also imagine that the Demeter has a Poseidon gun, since it does the most minimal damage compared to the Demeter long gun. So a broadside of a Ceres is 1 medium carronade and 2 light carronades, and it adds up to somewhere between 1,348 to 1,545. It's rather random of what you would get. You won't get either of those. You'd get something in between, and I've yet to really hone in on what that is, but that's the broad range of damage that you could do. And the Demeter has 2 carronades and a medium turret, adding up to 1,488 damage to 1,545, as a possibility of a full broadside. And as you can see, the Demeter does more minimal damage than the Ceres, so I would say the Demeter is more likely to do more damage, but only by a bit. However, the Demeter and Ceres are both mercantile ships with an engine. The best tactic for both is to switch its engines on and flee upwards. The Demeter has a very manoeuvrable rear gun, so it will more likely do more repeated damage as it flees ships. It will become especially handy when pursued by dragons. So in that sense, I would say the Demeter, because of the sheer fact that it has a rear gun, would mean that it would do more damage in the long run. Visibility, or is the double V glitch necessary? No, it's not necessary. The field of view is clear for all cannons except the Poseidon long gun, in a way. The double V glitch doesn't really help that, and it's not really much of a problem anyway. So in all, the Demeter has better snipe resistance and does more damage, whereas you could say that the Ceres has better field of view. at the cost of a turret, but that's sort of stretching it. So that's the armament, which is the main thing that's different. Crew protection. There is another practical difference between the two ships, and that's to do with how they are designed. The Ceres engine is a lot larger, forcing the hull to expand out sidewards, and there is a canopy added to it. This gives the ship a much more interesting look, especially if you make it out of gold like Sincere did. The Demeter looks painfully dull in comparison, with the turret at the back not really doing much to add to the aesthetics in my opinion. But aesthetics aside, the engine and canopy is very practical in that it offers a lot of protection from enemy cannon fire that could snipe your crew. Whereas on the Demeter you're left wide open. But the Demeter offers better helm protection, which can save you from at least one cannonball, which is what happened here. The Ceres, however, places the helmet on an open platform, an easy target for snipers. Other stuff. The Demeter has a design flaw that makes it hard to hop onto the ship from the ocean. You have to hop on to a cannon to get on. But for the Ceres, the deck is lower and easier to get on from the sea. And for customization, the Ceres only offers 4 options for customization, but the Demeter has 7 options, so the Demeter is much more customizable. And that's about it. That's as much as I can say about the differences between the two ships. So, to sum up the difference, the Demeter has better armament, better helm protection, and is much more customizable. The Ceres, on the other hand, is cheaper by a bit, has better crew protection, and is easier to board from the sea. So there you have it. Everyone can now own the Demeter, essentially. And I haven't seen that much backlash with bringing back the Demeter, even from those who own one. And as someone who owns one, I think it's because the Demeter has always been more of a trophy ship, in that it's not worth the vast amount of resources to build one. After all, it's only really useful with coal and in certain trade routes, in my opinion, especially with the addition of the Albatross now. And also the Ceres is nerfed with the lack of the rear gun. All I hear from Ceres owners are complaints about that particular fact. One last thing, I really like the names given to both ships. The Demeter was an ancient Greek goddess of the harvest, which is a suitable name for a ship that will bring in a rather big harvest. And the Ceres was an ancient Roman goddess of somewhat the same thing, whose origins stemmed from when the Demeter's mythology was taken by the Romans and reinterpreted to form, well, the Ceres mythology. It just matches the origins of both the ships, with the Ceres being a reinterpretation of the Demeter, and I rather like that attention to detail. People noticed this actually, and there was actually some speculation, because there is a ship called the Ares, which is a combat version of the Demeter, and it's named after the Greek god of war. So people speculated that maybe there is a ship on the horizon that will be a reinterpretation of that, called Mars, the Roman god of war. Though this is all speculation, and it's not confirmed whatsoever to be planned or anything like that. But if it was to happen, then we should follow the same logic as the Demeter and Ceres, and Mars should be like a nerfed version of the Ares, which would be a shame for a ship called Mars, but again, speculation. Anyway, I hope you like this video. I tried to make it a lot more interesting than my previous comparisons, which are rather dull, I must admit. I can't watch them myself. I thought I'd switch it up a bit. I hope this has been useful, entertaining, and I'll see you whenever. Bye.